Did you open your relationship, discover you hate it, and now you're scared you're stuck forever? While you might not be able to close Pandora's box, you can close your open relationship. As much work as it can take to open up, you might find you don't actually enjoy non-monogamous relationship dynamics. In this video, I'm going to share 4 simple steps that you can use to talk to your partner about closing your open relationship. Be sure to watch until the end because step 4 might surprise you. Becoming monogamous or breaking up actually aren't the only 2 options. I'm Iseman. I'm an open relationship coach, and this channel shares all the lessons that I've learned the hard way so you don't have to. Before you have the delicate conversation about closing your open relationship, ask yourself these 5 important questions. Why do you want to close your relationship? There are many reasons that may have you considering it. Health issues can sometimes require more focused time, attention, and dedicated support from our primary partner. The benefit of multi-partner dynamics like polyamory is that we can actually get consistent support without overly taxing any one person. Responsibilities can be shared and distributed as needed among partners. If an STI is the concern behind potentially closing your dynamic, communicating that to your partners may be all that's needed so that they can make their own informed health decisions. You may actually want to only close the physical or sexual side of your dynamic while maintaining the emotional side of your romantic relationships for the time being. Violated trust can shake the bedrock of any relationship. Closing the dynamic for an agreed upon period of time can create a container in which to work towards healing and rebuilding trust. But it's important to note here that simply closing the relationship is not what will create trust. It can actually have the opposite effect if we don't have an action plan in place and get the support that we need to regain a foundation of trust over time. NRE, or new relationship energy. Sometimes we might want a period of closed dynamics at the beginning of a new relationship in order to build a solid foundation before opening it up to other potential partners. You thought you'd like it, but you don't. We never know exactly how we'll feel about something new until we try it. So it's important not to feel guilty about changing your mind, or shame anyone else about changing theirs. This is not to be confused with cowboys and cowgirls. This is a term for monogamists that are secretly trying to convert non-monogamous people into closed dynamics. The difference here is that they know at the start, at least at some level, that they're not really interested in anything other than monogamous relationship dynamics. Do you want to close just the physical sexual dynamics or the emotional romantic ones? Or both. Remember that the physical and emotional aspects of our relationships are 2 separate components. Do you want to close your dynamic as a couple? Or do you want polyfidelity? Polyfidelity is when you and all your current partners agree not to seek out new or additional connections outside of the core polycule. A polycule is a network of people in non-monogamous relationships that are connected emotionally, sexually, or romantically. Do you actually need to de-escalate one or more of your partnerships rather than just fully closing your relationship with your core or primary partner? De-escalation simply refers to reducing commitment or intimacy within a relationship dynamic. The term is based on the social concept of the relationship escalator, the social assumption that there are certain escalating steps we must take in order to publicly validate a relationship. It's just about how we move partners from social relationships to personal involvements. When we close a relationship, it can feel like a breakup with the existing partners we're no longer open to connecting with. A de-escalation is related to the concept of a breakup, only in that it's a change to the dynamic, but it is different in that it is not a complete severing of ties. De-escalation can help with feelings of polysaturation, which is when we've reached our relational capacity. We can feel overtaxed emotionally and physically by having more significant relationships than we can handle at a given time. And there's a lot of factors that influence polysaturation, including things like time or distance. What time frame are you looking at? How soon will you close the relationship, and how long will it last? Remember that this decision impacts other people outside of just you and your partner, and so you need to take into consideration the time that it will take to both communicate and disentangle with others. Once you have answers to those important questions, it's time to have the conversation. Step 1, invite the conversation. Let your partner know you have something important that you want to discuss, and ask when would be best for them to set aside some focused time to chat with you. This is actually quite similar to the conversation that you probably had to open up your relationship in the first place. You probably said something along the lines of, "This dynamic isn't working for me anymore. Can we change our agreements and adapt together?" Step 2, state what you want clearly. Use direct and clear language. Don't overcomplicate. If going back to monogamy is what you want, Then say exactly that. Use I statements. Express how you feel and how you're seeing things from your perspective without accusing them or demanding for them to change their behavior. Approach this conversation with a sense of partnership. You're in this to solve issues together. Try something like this, but adapt it using your own language to have it sound more natural coming from you. Step 3, active listening. Now that you've said your piece, it's time for you to actively listen to your partner's response and answer any questions that they might have. Use open, non-threatening body language, such as neutral facial expression and stance, and a soft but focused eye contact. Sitting down with your partner so you're at the same eye level can also soften the atmosphere. This can be a charged conversation with lots of emotions, so make sure to reduce your defensiveness by validating and empathizing with your partner's emotions. Using open-ended questions, asking for clarification, and paraphrasing can help them feel understood. When we feel understood, we're more likely to engage in constructive dialogue. They might need some time to process this new information in order to figure out how they feel about it. So don't pressure them to respond right away about how they might want to move forward. Step 4, decision time. Now that you've both had adequate time to process the conversation and you are mutually ready to discuss what comes next, there is a possibility that your partner might enjoy open dynamics too much to give it up. This can feel really heartbreaking, but if that's the case, and being in an open relationship doesn't work for you, this can mean you have incompatible dating lifestyles or relationship orientations. To fully close an open relationship, you both need to be on the same page. If they do not agree with you and would like to continue their open lifestyle, and them being polyamorous is a deal breaker to you, I suggest that you respectfully say goodbye and end the relationship. That way, you can both avoid growing resentful towards each other and create the space for the best relationship dynamics for each of you. But you actually have 2 options here. If you don't agree, listen closely here, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to end the relationship. I've worked with couples where one is monogamous and one is polyamorous. While this is certainly a much more challenging dynamic to manage, it's not impossible. We don't have to have the same needs in order to be compatible partners, but we do need to be able to genuinely accept our partner's relational preferences and not project ours onto them. If you do agree and your partner is on the same page about closing the relationship, there are some important things to consider during this transition. You may need to retrain your brain to stop actively looking for other connections. It's totally normal to find other people attractive, but in an exclusive relationship, you've agreed to not act on that attraction. Be mindful of your decisions. We don't control our feelings, but we do control how we act or don't act on them. Depending on the other relationships affected by this transition, one or both of you may have previous partners reaching out at various times attempting to reconnect. We can't control what other people do, so don't make your partner responsible for other people's actions. Just use this as data to determine whether or not the communication with others was clear enough and adjust accordingly. Create new memories that show your mutual commitment to this new dynamic. Throughout this process, have grace with each other and communicate openly. Share your individual feelings about the things that you experienced during your open dynamic and do a relationship inventory. Review these important questions together. Where do we go from here? What do we need from one another? What did we like and dislike about an open relationship? Are there any lingering resentments? How do we use our open relationship lessons to strengthen an exclusive relationship together moving forward? If being monogamous doesn't have to last forever, then neither does being non-monogamous. But the transition between the two in either direction has to come with the age-old staple of any healthy relationship, honesty. Even if you decide to close an open relationship by transitioning from non-monogamy to monogamy, it should still be an open dynamic in that it's grounded in open communication. If you're more interested in opening your closed relationship than closing an already open one, make sure to check out my next video. In it, I share the top 5 mistakes monogamous couples make when opening up by telling you how I blew up my last monogamous relationship. Learn from my mistakes so they don't become yours. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll get a heads up every time I release a new video about inclusive relationship dynamics.